Hey y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and I am digging into month 2 of Camp Living Hope from Illustrated Faith. Let's go. We are in month 2 of Camp Living Hope from Illustrated Faith. It is a gorgeous devotional. I'm just so pumped. I did not even get past the introduction, you guys, before. I really wanted to dig in and do some journaling. So today I am in my Bible. I'm going to be journaling in 1 Corinthians chapter 4. So we will dig into that. I have all of my goodies. They are a hot mess over on this tray, but they're all here. So we're going to dig into that and do a little journaling, little Bible journaling. So I will put you guys on fast forward. As always, I will link everything that I use down below. Remember, even if physical product is sold out over Illustrated Faith, there are digital versions of the devotional, the ephemera, all of that good stuff. So you can check those things out for sure. All right, I'll put you guys on fast forward. Let's do it. All right, so in the introduction, our Camp Hope facilitator, Lisa, is welcoming us back to camp, and I loved her descriptions on just the amazingness of how God not only designs our world around us, but how unique each and every one of us are, and how we are uniquely equipped to be in the place that God has placed us, to serve in the mission that he is calling us to serve in. And I just started to think of what a very unique toolbox each of us is given by God. And sometimes we know all the tools in our toolbox, and sometimes it feels really obvious. We can identify our spiritual gifts, and sometimes it's not as obvious. And I wanted to kind of illustrate that toolbox idea and to thank God for equipping me for the missions that he places in my path. And so what I'm doing here is making it's going to end up looking kind of like a little first aid kit. And I went through the ephemera in the kits from Illustrated Faith and pulled out some tools that you might need for camping, like a water bottle and a coffee mug and a walkie-talkie and a compass. And I wanted to use them to illustrate how just perfectly God equips us for the place he places us. In order to do my little toolbox, I used some printable papers from Kelly Bangs, and now I'm cutting out the little red cross symbol here, the first aid symbol, out of some of the other floral paper, and we will get that all placed on. And then I'm just going to use a lot of those ephemera pieces all around the edge of the toolbox. I'm going to stamp the toolbox with the phrase equip me, equip on the outside, and then me on the inside, as soon as I cover it with another little piece of scrap paper that I have from the kit. The verse that I'm focusing on is in 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 1 and 2, and it says, "This is how one should regard us, as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful." So in this Bible journal entry, I'm wanting to thank God not only for equipping me in certain ways to be exactly in the mission field that he has placed me in, but also to pray for my own faithfulness, that I would use the gifts that he's given me in a faithful manner. I have struggled at times when you have a very specific theme, when you have goodies that follow a very specific theme, like this camping theme, to relate it to all of the different Bible journal entries I want to create, because the reflections that I had on this particular introduction don't necessarily draw themselves back to camping. They certainly draw themselves to, the beauty of creation and the beauty of creation within each and every one of us, but not necessarily camping. And so I find when I'm having a little trouble relating the theme of the pieces I'm working with, all of these camping things, when I'm having trouble relating it back to exactly what I want to talk about, I tend to just go for a little bit more of an overview. I don't worry about it being more a literal representation, and just using some of the creative pieces as a way to share what's on my heart, but not necessarily be a exact replica of what I'm thinking, if that makes sense. So while I might not have just chosen to do a first aid toolkit of camping to illustrate these particular verses, they are giving me almost a little platform in order to explore it in a different way. All right, so I took a little time to do some Distress Oxide around the edge. I struggled a little bit making this as smooth as I wanted it to be, so I added some water, blotted up some of the pieces, some of the ink, and then went over again with a fresh sponge and smoothed out some of the kind of rougher edges. And in the end, a lot of this is going to end up, it's just the background. It's going to end up covered up by some of the different pieces. So I'm going to kind of fiddle around with how I'm going to put these together in a cluster. I'm going to have some pieces in the back, some in the front. It's kind of a rule of clustering how you layer pieces. You don't want to do just one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, but have some in the front, some in the back, layer them in some different ways just to add some interesting dimension. And I'm also trying to make sure that I'm not covering up the verses that I'm wanting to focus on. I do get questions sometimes about covering up Bible verses when I'm doing journaling directly in my Bible. It's not something that I particularly worry about. This is not a study Bible. Bible is just for journaling purposes, and I've gone through probably, oh geez, we're probably getting into close to the double digits on journaling Bibles for me. So if I happen to cover up verses like I'm going to do on this one, and I want to journal those verses later, then I will just use one of my different journaling Bibles or add a little insert, a tip in. I have lots of ways that I've worked around that in the past, so I don't really worry. I don't try to purposefully cover up any verses, but sometimes it just happens just because of how I structure the page together. This library card is going to be the perfect place to write out my prayer for this entry. And then I just used the same Distress Oxide to add a little bit more interest to the two pieces that were going to be at the top. I'm going to use that floral piece. Again, clustering, go behind the library card, also in front of the library card. And then this one is going to stick up. That's going to kind of serve as my tab at the top of the page because the flower is going to stick up just like a tab would. And then I'll end up adding the title, Your Creation is Beautiful. And that's a reflection both on our environment and the creation of each and every one of us. Of course, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to use some of these rub-ons. I'm just a tiny bit obsessed with all of the rub-ons that Illustrated Faith has been using lately, and I've been picking up rub-ons in other places. I just love this particular supply right now, and so I'm going to use one of this little grouping of daisies and then the word abide, because what I'm trying to tie together is, the thankfulness on how we are equipped, and then a prayer to abide in God, to use the tools that he has given us, the unique way that he created each and every one of us, to use that to follow his mission that he places us on. Rub-on transfers are really easy to use. You just have to get, in this case, I'm using a bone folder right here. Rub it on the page, kind of like you would do a temporary tattoo, and then pull up the clear front part, and it leaves the word or the picture behind. And it's super cool. I love how it comes together. All right, I'm going to pop up the title, Your Creation is Beautiful, just to give it some more interest. This is actually double-sided tape from the Dollar Tree. It's foam tape, works really great, and you get 3 rolls for $1.25. Perfection, something I love. So we're going to put that right up there, and then it'll just be about wrapping up this verse. So I'm going to take a minute to underline the verses. I'm placing my title a little bit lower than I had originally planned, mostly to draw attention to exactly where I wanted to focus on the page, which is right at the beginning of chapter 4. So I'll take a little time to underline those verses, and then I'll write out my prayer, where it says, Lord, help me to be faithful in the roles and missions you have placed me in. Bless the work of my hands as I seek to serve you in your kingdom. So I add the prayer, and then I will add the date, and that will wrap up this particular Bible journal entry. It is interesting. I did set up a full mini album for this particular kit. However, I've really been enjoying journaling back into my Bible, so my mini album is incomplete. And if that happens to you, don't worry one little bit. If you change the way you like to faith journal from kit to kit, or even within one kit, that is totally okay, because the whole point is just spending time in the Word and whatever is inspiring you. At the moment, that's the right way to do it. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this Bible journal entry. Like I said, I will link everything that I used down in the description box below. If you cannot find these physical products over at Illustrated Faith, be sure to check out the digital side of their shop, which is a great option when things are sold out. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members. You all are the absolute best. We're having a fabulous time. If you want to check out Patreon and maybe give it a try, you can always try a 7-day free trial, and there is a link for Patreon down in the description box below. All right, I hope that you have a fabulous day, and as always, keep it creative.